Hi, I'm Veronica Entwistle, and I want to talk to you today about nutrition. Okay, everybody talks about nutrition. I love doing my green juices. They give me a zest in life and a cleansing possibility that is just ongoing, and they're quite tasty. It's a great way to start the day. But it reminds me so often of how our foods are very deceptive. You and I have to pay attention to, I guess, the market's lying to us or buying things that look good, that are supposed to make us feel good, and then discovering that, guess what, they're quite poisoned or they really hurt us. Or here's the other thing, is that I don't do well when I eat certain kinds of food, like a lot of meat or dairy and that kind of thing. And we have to learn in life to trust ourselves and realize what doesn't work for me and what doesn't work for you. I've been very interested in health food since many years ago, and I had a huge emotional kind of dump. I call it a nervous breakthrough. But at that point, to pull myself back together, I worked in a health food store and I took supplements one at a time just to see what it would do to me. And I read morning, noon, and night. And that's where I learned a lot about the marketed foods and how they had discovered through the years, for example, of pellagra. Pellagra was a really nasty disease. It ripped people's skin, it made people demented, the skin would be torn and bleeding all over the body, and they even had pellagra institutions because once they got that way and the skin was really such a mess, they would have to institutionalize them because their minds would be going next. What they discovered over time, and I remember reading about this and being kind of like Pollyanna, quite shocked, finding out that the way they had stored the corn and then again used it for the foods for usually institutions like orphanages and places for people without much money. Those foods that were used were denatured, they were stored wrong, and they were denatured, and unwittingly people were feeding as I said, some poorer people or institutionalized people with denatured corn, which meant they were deficient in niacin or B3. And it's kind of like the old stories about vitamin C deficiencies and sailors who got scurvy. You get certain kinds of deficiencies for whatever reason in the food, and it becomes a killer disease. And pellagra was a killer disease. And as soon as they discovered that they had antidoted B3 or niacin by the way they stored those, guess what? They started putting it back in, and all the people that had pellagra didn't have it anymore. And this huge scourge that was very often down in the southern states, but it was in several parts of the world as well, it disappeared. The institutions weren't necessary anymore. We have a similar thing these days where we have so many people, so much being grown on a number of farms, just farmland, ranch land, and so on. But we also have a very intense marketing plan for it. So sometimes we have been using, we're hearing a lot about this lately, all kinds of stuff that helps things grow and keeps the bugs out, and we have the Monsanto trick to put pesticides in the very foods we're growing and all that. And that's creating a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's really hard for you and I to trust what we think we're getting and actually find out what we are getting. And that's what I wanted to talk about. If you eat something that looks kind of benign and normal and you don't quite feel right, play with yourself that way. Pay attention to what you're doing. So what we're discovering is a number of things. A lot of people have mental health issues. Now let's drop back into pellagra and niacin. Niacin is an amazing aspect of B vitamins that is terrific for supporting mental health. So we've got a whole bunch of crazy foods. They're putting chemicals in certain foods. They're putting dangerous chemicals in the earth. We all know that, right? So what kind of antidote is going on so that foods that are being grown and look very lush and have a huge bounty, how do we know what's been antidoted by what they put in the soils. I think it's a really important subject. I think it's natural for a lot of people to say, I don't feel well when I eat, for example, wheat these days. I know a lot of people that are going wheat avoidance, or they're saying I don't do gluten. Well, it's not just the gluten. What it is what we've done to the soils that grow the wheat and so on. So there are chemicals interrupting what would be the natural nutritional part of wheat. So a lot of us can't handle it. And how do you know you can't handle wheat? Take a look in your mirror. You eat some of this stuff, guess what? Your nose runs, or your eyes, big bags under your eyes happen. These big bags are a sign of being having some kind of allergies. Oh, they can also be a sign of suppressing anger, but that's a bigger story for another day. But the kind of things that happen in our eyes, in our ability to focus, and the way our brain goes. How many of you have foggy brain? All of that is tied into how we've marketed the production of foods. And I believe that what's happening is there's more and more consciousness about that. So many young people have gone vegan, older people as well, but young people are just going, this food doesn't make me feel very good. And they become kind of lighter and freer, and perhaps there's a lot of obesity in our world too. Perhaps not as obese, I'm not sure about that. There could be a tie in there with sugars. But I'm saying to you that one of the ways out of this complicated marketing of food problem is for you to pay attention to two things. One is, how do you feel when you eat? Can you digest? Do you need to take a lot of digestive supports? Because if that's true, your food is not creating the cycling and the digestion in your body-mind that is normal. So you got to take care of that. And the other thing is, take a look at your face. Always look in the mirror after you've eaten. How do you look? And I already said, you might have big bags under your eyes. Do your eyes get all puffy? I shouldn't really eat salt. How do I know that? Because my legs swell up or my face swells up. But every now and then now I eat some potato chips or something that has salt on it. And I love it. Oh my goodness, it's such fun. And then the next morning when I get up, I'm all swollen all up around here. So I always tell people, and this is not the only reason we need to look at our faces this way, a very astute observation of whether you're swelling or what. That's not the only reason, but it is a really solid reason for getting to know yourself, what makes you shine, what makes you healthy. And there are some people who don't eat a lot, maybe they're anorexic or something, but their faces have this kind of strange boniness about it. You can see that in people's faces as well. Not just because they're slim, but there's a way in which the suffering of the body flesh talks to people. And in my clientele, especially with men, I always remind people to get a little pocket mirror, put it in your pocket, and bring it out after you've eaten, and take a look at what makes your skin shine, makes your skin rosy, and makes your eyes bright. Even if you know you've had a couple of glasses of wine and you know you're going to be dull, at least look at it. Take a look, because as you measure effects and how they affect your face, your eyes, your body, mind, you get to know yourself and what it is useful for you to eat and what you shouldn't really eat. Because most of us want to look like we're really in our prime and ready to go. Anyway, this is Veronica Entwistle saying thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed some of the tidbits in this little story about our nutrition. And subscribe to my YouTube videos, and I'd love to hear back from you.